transitioning your child to their own room. When is the perfect time to do this? We want to look at when it's going to be easy, when your child is developmentally ready, and when you should do it. So let's just start by looking at some facts here. The Australian Health Service, the NHS, and the American Academy of Pediatrics all suggest sharing a room with your child for at least the first 6 months because it reduces the risk of SIDS. Room sharing reduces the risk of SIDS, and so that is why you should room share for at least the first 6 months. Dealing with night wake-ups is actually much easier to do as well. If you are right near to your child, you can just easier for you to be getting up and helping during the night, as opposed to having to get up, leaving the room, going into a different room, and then helping your child there. So it actually is easier for you, and you will be getting longer chunks of sleep because you're not having to be so physically active during the night to be able to help your child when they're just going to naturally wake, which is completely normal. So remember that. Minimal 6 months. American Academy of Pediatrics does suggest room sharing between the first 6 and 12 months of age. So when do I think the perfect time for you to transition your child to their own room? When you feel that you're ready. That is the perfect time. There is no age, stage, weight, magical number that makes this the perfect time. Some people are doing this when their child hits 6 months. Some people are doing this when their child hits 18 months. Some people are doing this later. You'll know when the time is right for you to want to make this move. So don't look at when you should be doing something, because you'll know when you're ready to do this. You'll know. Now, if your child is 6 months or 7 months and they have been sleeping right next to you, it can actually be a little bit tough to move your child to a different room. You've been used to sleeping with them right next to you in your room. They've been used to sleeping right next to you in your room. And now suddenly moving them to a different room can be kind of really big and really scary for everyone. You may be worrying if you're going to hear your child or not. If they wake up, chances are you are. But I understand that it's not always easy to make that transition to your child sleeping in their own room. And so one way, if you are struggling with this, is to just create a little bit of space, if you can, between you and your child. It doesn't mean you have to move them to a different room, but you could just be creating a little space. So if your room does allow moving that bassinet or that crib a little further away, just creating a little bit more space, you're still going to be able to hear your child, definitely, but you're just beginning to create a little bit of space, and continuing to move them this way can be a really helpful way of introducing your child to a little bit more independence and getting you comfortable with that as well. Making some changes every 2 or 3 nights is completely fine. Heading sort of like further and further away. You don't need to don't feel you've got to be heading towards the door. You don't. You're not going to be sort of like keep moving them and then they're in sort of like the hall, and then, you don't have to do that, of course, but just creating a little bit of space may just make you feel that actually this is going to be okay. When your child does go into their room, you may want to decide that you're going to spend a few nights sleeping in their room with them. Remember, they've been very used to being really kind of quite close to you, and that may help you as well if you are sleeping near to your child. So make up a bed. Don't just, be uncomfortable on the floor. Make up a bed. If you don't have a spare bed in their room, make up a bed so that you can comfortably sleep there. And then that will help you. They'll get used to that room. They're used to what it looks like, what it smells like. They're used to their new room. And that will make that a little bit easier. I do 2 or 3 nights in there. Depending then on the age of your child would depend on whether they're going to see you move that bed out of there or not. If you're dealing with a toddler, I would most certainly spend 3 nights in the room with them, sleeping in there with them, helping them as you would do, and then popping them back down into their bed, just everything else is the same. And then you could keep the bed in there, but you're not going to be just going to bed in there. Maybe certain wake up, then you'll sleep in there. Make it easy for you. Let's make this easy for you. Parenting's hard enough. Let's not create any more issues with sleep here. So maybe that if your child is waking at 2, then when they wake at 2, you're going to then go in and you're going to help them feed whatever that is, and then you're going to sleep in the room for the rest of the night. And then you could do that for a couple more nights, and then removing the bed, and then you're just going to be going in and helping as you need to, and then going back to your bed. When your child moves to their own room, it does not mean that they are going to suddenly start sleeping through the night. You may hear from people who will say, as soon as I move my child to their room, oh, they started sleeping through the night. That is probably not going to happen. Remember, we're changing things up, so we're changing not necessarily what they're sleeping in. Their crib, bassinet is going to be the same. But if you are changing room, then actually things may get more challenging. You may have more night wake-ups initially before then things begin to improve. So just because you move your child does not mean they're going to start sleeping through the night, regardless of what you've been told. They may sleep very differently. So you know when the right time for you to move your child, when you are comfortable doing so. There is no perfect time. I personally think it's easier to be nearer to your child when you're dealing with lots of night wake-ups. So that's initially, with an infant, we're dealing with lots of night wake-ups. Getting past that 6 months, and then when you are ready, you know when you are ready for your child to be sleeping in their room, and that is the perfect time for your child to be sleeping in their room. When did you move your child to their room? I moved my kiddos. My eldest was in my room for longer than my youngest. But we're talking, 17, 18 years ago. And the recommendations were very, very different then. Very different then. And now we know that room sharing does reduce the risk of SIDS. And I think we want to do all that we can for that to be the case. So room sharing for the first 6-ish months is a great way to do that. Wonderful.